Hello there. Welcome to the Harley Carnes podcast. Harley on the headlines. Quick look at some of the stories of the day. I thank you for being there. Do appreciate it, and hope there's something worthwhile in these brief visits for you, which is hopefully why you keep coming back. And, one of the things we're going to start doing is I'll read some of the messages that we get, and you can see what people are thinking. So far, so good. Appreciate the help. I really do. Like, follow, subscribe. I don't even know if doing it more than once helps. I'm so stupid sometimes when it comes to technology stuff. Oh, well, that's the way it goes, Let's get to the good stuff first thing, all right? The New York Knickerbockers are one victory, maybe one game away from their first NBA championship in more than half a century. This video of the last seconds of the game comes from the NBA on ESPN and on YouTube.
Foul to give.
Go flat for Jalen Brunson. Allow him to operate at the top. 101.
Brunson gets it. Fires up a three. Shot no good. The tip. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. With 1.2 remaining. Knicks take the lead. OG Anunoby. And it's 107-106. Towns will guard the inbounds. Robinson will guard Wembanyama. Vassell, Castle, Fox as well. Harper's going to inbound the ball. No timeouts left. They have to get it in. Harper lobs it inside. Castle hasn't lost it. That's it. It's over. The greatest comeback in NBA playoff history.
It was a night for the storybooks. The fans will retell of watching that happen for years. The Knicks had come back from 29 points down to reach that moment. Now, on one hand, it was just another NBA tip-in, or a missed shot that bounced high where only the sky-high leapers of the NBA have a chance to reach it, and OG Anunoby did. But he did it with 1.2 seconds on the clock, and that kind of thing robs all the oxygen from the other team when they would need an even bigger miracle for the Spurs to win. And Larry Bird and Michael Jordan are retired. They never wore Spurs anyway. Game 5 moves to San Antonio. That was some great stuff, really. Democrats finally failed their fight to be the illegal immigrant criminals' best friends. The bill to fund Homeland Security's immigration law enforcement agencies through 2028 was passed, and President Trump signed the bill. Republicans had to take a reconciliation vote, which only required a simple majority to overcome the Democrats' filibuster. It's called the Secure America Act, and it funds immigration and customs and border patrol and all the rest with $70 billion through 2028, which means through the next presidential election. And that'll keep the Democrats' opposition from being the albatross around their necks that it would have been. And it gives the president a victory that'll be in the political past and kind of faded by then. Now, what Congress ought to do, this is almost a different story, but it is part of this story. What Congress ought to do is go back to the original form of a filibuster and set it into law. Stop messing around with it. Originally, if a member wanted to keep a vote from happening on legislation he proposed or his party proposed, all he had to do was keep talking. Talk and talk and talk without stopping for hours, sometimes for days, because as long as you could hold the floor, you could prevent a vote. You were technically extending debate on the bill. Eventually, the filibusterer would run out of gas and voting would commence. Then they made a decision to give the minority party the power to just stop about anything they don't like. They decided that a filibuster does not stop all legislative decisions until it ends. They decided to set up two tracks. One, in which the normal work of the body would continue, the House or the Senate. The second track shunts the filibuster to its own, kind of a side track, so it can go on and on and on and on, stopping cold that legislation that the minority doesn't like. Cloture, which requires a 2/3 vote, stops filibusters. But again, if the House or Senate is nearly evenly split as they are today, then cloture becomes almost impossible. The minority still wins. The result has been this. Where once 25% of bills in the Senate were eventually passed, enacted, that was early in the last century. By 2005, only 12.5% of bills proposed passed. And as of 2010, think about that, it's only 5 years later, less than 3%, 2.8% of all bills proposed actually pass in the Senate. This is why people are right to say Congress accomplishes very little. They do essentially nothing. I mean, they do a lot of nothing. That's what they do. The only way around unending filibusters is reconciliation, also known as the nuclear option, a simple majority vote cloture, which ends the filibuster. And a lot of that passage or not passage of bills has nothing to do with filibusters, but much of it does, because the minority can stop it dead if they don't like a particular bit of legislation. And the simple majority, the reconciliation, is a fairly recent development that puts the power back in the hands of majority. And it's controversial, too, because in the ebb and flow of politics, one day the shoe will be on the other foot, and simple majority votes could remake everything. Imagine putting complete simple majority control into the hands of either the radicals of the far left or those on the far right. But reconciliation is how Homeland Security finally got funded, how the bill passed, how it became available for the president to sign. Kind of sorry for the long-winded explanation, but it can be like a molasses swim to get through it all sometimes. Now, here's one of those moments when you get to feel viscerally the passage of time. Sasha Obama, daughter of the former president, turns 25 this week. Whew, we're all feeling a little bit older over that, I can tell you. We all remember when she was just a little thing. Everything about Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, was seamy, dirty, tainted, kind of disgusting. He was a pro at helping the rich and famous hide their money. He enjoyed surrounding himself and having sex with very young women, some of them not of legal age to do what they were doing. To them, it was a nonstop party in mansions on an island made for the debauch, and it went on for years and years. Since his arrest and reported suicide, those who knew him and some who hung out with him, the so-called ruling class of this country, have been scattering like rats, making up stories of the most bizarre sort to try to wallpaper the ugly images in everyone's mind. Bill Gates is the latest, one of the richest of the world's men. He has testified in Congress now, all of a sudden claims that he was being blackmailed by Epstein to hang out with him. Seen with Epstein quite a bit, in fact. It's easy enough to understand, uber-rich, painfully geeky guy, not known as a ladies' man, but all of that and a lot more when Epstein and his crowd were around. It seemed safe, protected by status and penthouse elevators that launched occupants from the floor up to the world of pleasure, far above the mundane. Would have been a temptation to many, and it was. It won't bring Gates down. He tries to do too much good for that, and he's wealthy enough to weather anything. But, as with a surprising number of people we thought were above reproach, Gates is reproached. He is besmirched. He's tainted, and he's tarnished. And life will go on. It really will. You know, there's nothing good about a startled, frightened bear, especially a grizzly bear, a brown bear. Just 3.5 miles from one of the trailheads on the Grinnell Trail in Glacier National Park in Montana. A 32-year-old hiker came around a corner just as a grizzly was going the other way. They were both surprised. There was rushing water from a nearby stream. They couldn't hear each other. And the bear attacked the man, because that's what bears do, but did not kill him. Could have. Left him all torn up. But he was lucky. He was lucky because there were other hikers nearby, and they made lots of noise and came on the run, and the bear left him alone. Even luckier than that, one of the other hikers is a doctor. Park rangers were called. They sent a helicopter to airlift the man to Kalispell for hospital treatment. Lucky man. Iran, where the U.S. and Iran have traded strikes against each other, goes on and on and on, right? President Trump has told Fox the U.S. will at some point in the not-too-far distant future take over Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points. Now, that's something that should have happened in the first days of the little war, because Karg is where most of Iran's oil flows out of the country. Take over that island and you control and stop Iran's oil industry until you decide to turn it back on again. The president is trying to find a pressure point that will force Iran's radical leaders to admit their defeat and sign a deal to forswear nuclear weapons ambitions, reopen the Strait of Hormuz and leave it alone, and play nice with its neighbors. Taking Karg can't be done from the air alone, though. It will take putting specialized forces there. And the Revolutionary Guard won't just hand it over. It's going to take some fighting. General Motors is not taking the dramatic sag in the sales of electric vehicles across the segment lying down. First, GM set up a vehicle-to-energy home system, which means if there's a blackout, your Bolt or whatever can power your house. Now, there is an additional plan. If you have a car with plenty of charge, you don't have to, do anything with it. If you don't have anywhere to go, you can plug it in and sell some of that electricity back to the grid. That's the newest little wrinkle. Does that mean you can profit from having an electric car? Well, that really depends, right? You still have to get the car charged in the first place in order to resell the energy, but unless it's cheaper than the price of the electrons at home, I guess there's no profit in it. Still, it's good to be able to do it, right? Speaking of profit, wow. Speaking of profit, I guess Patrick Mahomes is pretty satisfied with his decision to go with football instead of the pro baseball track that was also available to him. He just signed the biggest ever quarterback deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a new deal with a 2-year extension worth more than $500 million, $504.75 million. He hasn't signed the deal yet, so it's not official. But when he does, he'll make $64 million per season, which makes him number one. Until Mahomes signs, the highest-paid quarterback would be Josh Allen of the Bills. His new 6-year extension keeps him in Buffalo through 2030, makes him $55 million a year, but it includes an extra $330 million for the extension, $250 million of which is guaranteed. That's the biggest guarantee ever. I guess that'll do it. Man, a lot of money. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for tuning in today. Sure do appreciate it. I hope you'll come back, bring some folks with you. You've given me some of your time. It's precious stuff, and I appreciate you doing that. You'll find us on Spotify, video and audio, as well as on X and on Facebook. I am Harley Carnes, and until next time, do yourself a favor. Make some good, conscious choices in your life. Make a decision to be happy and fly safe. It is the only way to get there.